Chapter 31. You are listening at novelfold.audio. The organization needs talents like you. Itachi and Orochimaru remained where they were, motionless. For Itachi, the masked man could leave, but he couldn't. He hadn't finished what he promised to Konoha. Konoha would naturally not fulfill the agreement with him. He couldn't leave yet. As for Orochimaru, he was more of a spectator. He was confident that no one could stop him as long as he wanted to leave. However, Itachi and Qianye, two geniuses of the Uchiha clan, were fighting to the death. He didn't want to miss it. The masked man looked at Orochimaru, then at Itachi. He could probably guess why Orochimaru didn't leave. He wouldn't care. It's just that Itachi, his organization is preparing manpower. A powerful ninja like Uchiha Itachi is obviously what he needs. He doesn't want to give up a ninja who can be a powerful helper, but the current situation, Itachi doesn't want to leave, and he doesn't want to fight with someone as strong as Qianye. For Itachi, Konoha's people are surrounding him. No matter whether he wins or loses in the end, it will only be a miserable victory or a miserable defeat. Wouldn't Konoha be able to deal with him by then? Just like Itachi was always wary of him, he was also wary of Konoha, especially Danzo. The relationship between them was just a cooperative relationship of mutual benefit. There was no trust at all, so, make a quick decision and leave. Since Itachi was unwilling to leave, he had no choice. It would be a pity to give up such a ninja who could be a powerful helper, but Itachi was not the only powerful ninja who could be a helper. He couldn't take too much risk for Itachi. A vortex appeared, and the masked man's body was also fading at a very fast speed. At this time, in the dark night illuminated by the fire, the figures of ninjas began to appear. They were wearing basically the same clothes as the Konoha Umbu, only the masks on their faces were more weird. Konoha's root organization. In an instant, countless ninjas appeared from the dark at the same time. At a glance, it seemed densely packed. There were probably nearly 100 people, surrounding Qianye in the center. At the back, Danzo walked out slowly. The masked man who was about to fade into the Kamui space also stopped temporarily and stayed. He looked deeply at Danzo standing at the back, and was obviously still very dissatisfied with Danzo's attitude of watching the fire from the other side of the river. Qianye couldn't help but curl his lips when he saw this. Come again. In the last simulation, he was finally defeated by the combined forces of nearly 100-inch root organization ninjas, masked men, Itachi and Danzo. It was the same this time. Really, is there no other trick? However, there is no doubt that this trick is quite useful. An ordinary root organization ninja may not be scary, but when nearly 100 root organization ninjas gather together, they will form a powerful force. Even the current Qianye can feel extraordinary pressure when facing it. On the other side, after Danzo appeared, he immediately signaled the root organization ninjas to take action. In an instant, nearly 100 root organization ninjas received the order and released ninjutsu. At the same time, water-style water dragon bullet. Earth escape Tulum gun. Lightning escape thunderball. At one time, nearly 100 ninjutsu of different attributes attacked Qianye at the same time. There were fire escape, lightning escape, water escape, lightning escape, wind escape. Individually, the power was not amazing, but now gathered together, it became a terrifyingly strong force. From the side, it was extremely spectacular. Qianye stood with his hands behind his back. The firelight all over the ground made his delicate face flicker. The breeze blew, blowing his clothes and a strand of hair on his forehead. Taishan collapsed in front of him without changing his face, and the yellow river burst his mouth without panic. Don't say that it is now in a simulation. Even if it is really in real life, facing no matter how unfavorable the situation is, it is impossible for him to have a slight change in his heart. With Qianye's current strength, if he wants to leave early, who can stop him? But he still stays here, waiting for the night of genocide, waiting for the powerful Uchiha Itachi, Orochimaru, and the mysterious masked man, waiting for the root organization, Danzo, who was hiding in the dark and watching everything like a poisonous snake, in order to be able to fight with these powerful ninjas, to hone himself and improve his strength in the real-life and death battle. Instead of thinking about how to survive when the night of genocide comes, nearly 100 ninjutsu of different attributes attacked Qianye at the same time. Qianye's expression remained unchanged and began to conclude ninjutsu, would release wood dragon technique. Instantly, an extremely thick tree rose from the ground. it grew rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye. Finally, it broke out of the ground and formed a terrifying wooden dragon. The wooden dragon had a huge body of nearly 100 meters long, and its whole body seemed to be made of molten iron, full of shocking power. That is, the would release of the first Hokage. When did the Uchiha clan master would release? Seeing this situation, Danzo couldn't help but shrink his pupils and said in a deep voice, "That's would release." The first generation of Hokage, the god of ninja, Senju Hashirama's unique bloodline. For so many years, he has been secretly studying it at all costs, trying to pry open the secret of would release from other directions, but the final result was not satisfactory. Although some achievements have been made, it is undoubtedly still a long way from the level of Senju Hashirama. I didn't expect to see it today in a member of the Uchiha family. Moreover, watching Qianye perform would release to the same extent as the legendary Senju Hashirama. It brought him an unimaginable shock. However, this shock only appeared at the beginning, and then it changed little by little and became greed, possessing the Mangekyo Sharingan and the would release technique. Uchiha Qianye, this kid is really a treasure. Danzo narrowed his eyes and said to the two ninjas of the root organization on his left and right, "Go, capture him and bring back his body." Beside him, two ninjas said nothing, just bowed their heads and saluted, then disappeared in an instant. Hearing this, Orochimaru narrowed his eyes with a bit of coldness. He had long regarded Qianye as his own possession, so how could he tolerate others getting involved? Mangekyo Sharingan, would release, good. Very good. It's really a perfect body. If he can occupy this body, his achievements are limitless. However, now is not the time to make a move. He has a very strong intuition that Qianye will never die like this. On the other side, Uchiha Itachi's face under the mask had a somewhat complicated and lonely look. I thought that Qianye was at most on par with him, but now, watching Qianye's trump cards one after another, Izanagi, would release, and the seemingly endless chakra, it's really amazing. Wang's strength, Uchiha Itachi, a famous genius ninja in the Uchiha clan and even in the entire Konoha. All along, it has been others who are chasing after him from behind, and this time, he himself has finally become the one chasing after others. The masked man has different thoughts in his mind. In addition to surprise, he also has some admiration for Qianye. If such a powerful ninja can be used by him, it will definitely be a great help. In the center of the battlefield, a wooden dragon. Sword in the air, protecting Qianye in the center. Nearly 100 ninjas released by the root organization followed one after another and smashed hard on the wooden dragon. Boom. Boom. The huge power generated by the energy explosion stirred up thick gray smoke in the air. 3-day summer promotion, recharge 100 to get 500 VIP points. Recharge now, activity time, August 13th to August 15th. Chapter 32. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This guy knows would release. The plan is about to start. How's it going? Is it over? Maybe, no one can survive such an attack. Their experience tells them that no matter how strong a person is, he will not survive the simultaneous attack of nearly 100 people, but, they saw it clearly just now. Qianye was obviously bitten and died on the spot, but for some reason he was miraculously resurrected in the end, so, no one is sure whether Qianye is still alive. Everyone present stared at the center of the battlefield, where Qianye was. However, because the smoke produced by the explosion was too thick, most people could not see clearly. Even Uchiha Itachi, who has super high pupil power, the masked man, and a few root organization ninjas with Byakugan could only barely see some traces and could not see everything. Suddenly, the masked man moved. The whole person's body began to fade and moved into the Kamui space. Uchiha Itachi and Orochimaru also performed the instant body technique and retreated. Disperse. He's still alive. A root ninja with a Byakugan shrank in shock. What? All the root ninjas present, including Danzo, were shocked and were about to retreat, but at this moment, countless trees on the ground suddenly broke out of the ground, winding upwards and entwining like thick pythons. Many root ninjas were entangled before they could react and could not move. Some ninjas wanted to lend a hand to help their companions out of the predicament, but no matter what ninjutsu or means they used, they could not break through at all. Instead, they themselves could not escape and were tied up by the thick tree trunks. Seeing this, Danzo made a prompt decision and ordered all the root ninjas to give up rescue and temporarily retreat to a safe place in the rear. The gray smoke in the center of the battlefield gradually dissipated. Qianye also gradually revealed his figure. He stood alone with his hands behind his back. In his eyes, the Mangekyo Sharingan exuded a charming red light, as if it had powerful magic. Around him, the huge, hard, and indestructible body of the wooden dragon that originally protected him in the center, which was like molten iron, had completely shattered and scattered. On the ground, it lost its original power. Just now, Qianye used wood dragon technique to protect himself. After all, facing the attacks of nearly 100 ninjas from different angles, even if one has superb physical skills, it is difficult to dodge by relying on the instant body technique. One can only use absolute defense to resist. Therefore, he directly took out the ninjutsu of the first generation Hokage, the ninja god Senju Hashirama, wood dragon technique. This is a very powerful ninjutsu. It once shined in the hands of Senju Hashirama. Even the strongest of the nine-tailed beasts, the nine-tailed, was firmly suppressed by the wood dragon and could not move. Now in Qianye's hands, with his shadow-level strength, he can also block the simultaneous attacks of nearly 100-inch root organization ninjas. There was a hint of excitement in Qianye's eyes. In the last simulation, although he would not die directly when the root organization ninjas attacked at the same time, he would undoubtedly suffer some injuries. But now, it is true that the wood dragon is shattered, but he himself has not been affected at all. It's just that a lot of chakra has been consumed again. What? Surprisingly, unharmed at all. How is this possible? He survived such an attack without any injuries. All around, the root ninjas who had temporarily retreated to the side could not hide their shock. It was surprising enough that Qianye could survive, but it was not completely incomprehensible. After all, there was a precedent of someone being stabbed in the chest by a masked man before and still surviving. However, being unscathed was a bit too outrageous. This was nearly 100 ninjas attacking at the same time. Even their leader Danzo, or even the current Hokage, could do this. Danzo, the masked man, Orochimaru, and Itachi's faces were not calm. Could it be Izanagi again? Otherwise, how could he have survived? That would be too surprising. Don't be afraid, he must be at the end of his strength. No one can withstand such an attack without paying a huge price. Danzo half squinted his eyes and said in a deep voice, even if there is, it is definitely not something Qianye can do. As the leader of the root organization, he certainly knows those powerful beings who are truly beyond the level of Kage. For example, the first generation Hokage of Konoha, Senju Hashirama, or the legend of the Uchiha family, Uchiha Madara. These people are definitely capable of resisting the attacks of hundreds or even thousands of people on their own, but this is obviously not what Qianye can achieve now. Well, ordinary Uchiha clan members will pay the price of a Sharingan to cast Izanagi. The reason why Uchiha Qiye didn't lose an eye is because Izanagi is his Mangekyo Sharingan pupil technique. However, there must be limits. Such a powerful eye technique cannot be used without limits. Uchiha Itachi also spoke. As one of the few ninjas in the Uchiha clan who opened the Mangekyo Sharingan, he knew clearly what he would pay for using the Mangekyo Sharingan eye technique. Just like his Tsukimi, it is not only the failure of the use that will backfire. Excessive use of the Sharingan will also have a great negative impact on oneself. Not long ago, Qianye had just used Izanagi, and he used it again so quickly. He didn't believe that Qianye would be completely safe and sound as before. The masked man looked calm on the outside, maintaining his usual deep and majestic appearance, but there was a trace of doubt in his heart. This was related to himself. He himself was an ordinary Mangekyo Sharingan, not an eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. However, he can use Kamui frequently with minimal negative impact on himself. This is because of Hashirama's cells. Uchiha Qiye does not have Hashirama's cells, but he has wood release. Hashirama Senju, who has wood release, can achieve sealless healing. Then Qiye. Is it possible that he can also do this? However, he did not express this doubt directly. After all, with his ability, he can leave whenever he wants, and he does not need to care about the lives of Danzo and others. In Orochimaru's cold eyes, greedy desires became heavier. Qiye's performance really made him more and more satisfied. No matter what, he must get this body. Go. Danzo raised his hand. The remaining root ninjas nearby used the instant body technique and surrounded Qianye again. Qianye also chose to take the initiative. On the battlefield that had become a ruin, Qianye was flying and moving at a very fast speed. Around him, countless ninjutsu fell with powerful force, making bursts of roars and smashing all kinds of deep pits on the ground, but not even one of them could touch Qianye. Would release grafting technique. As the ninjutsu was performed, several long wooden thorns grew out of Qianye's arms. Qianye moved quickly while throwing the long thorns that grew out. The long thorns flew towards the ninja of the root organization. The speed was so fast that ordinary people could not even see it clearly. I saw that the spikes were still in Qianye's hands in the last second, and the next second, the spikes had appeared on his body. The long thorns were stained with blood, and under the control of Qianye's chakra, they grew wildly from the inside to the outside and spread outward. Puff. Blood spurted out. A ninja of the root organization was covered with spikes, and his death was horrible. It didn't even look like the ninja was stabbed by the spikes. It was more like the ninja grew on the spikes, and this situation is not an isolated case. Qianye used super high physical skills and extremely fast movement speed to fly on the battlefield. Wherever he went, he was accompanied by screams and blood spurting out. Danzo's face was ashen. All the ninjas of the root organization were carefully selected by him, and each of them was loyal to him. Now they were being slaughtered so wantonly, which made him a little bit unbearable. The veins on his forehead bulged, and he clenched his fists. The masked man's face under the orange-red mask was not calm. Would release insertion technique. Isn't this his ninjutsu? How did Qianye know it? And he was so skilled. With the blessing of such a superb physical skill, the power displayed was even better than his. Moreover, the scene of Qianye's massacre reminded him of some scenes that he didn't want to remember. In the past, he also killed people wantonly on the battlefield like Qianye. Lin, why don't you make a move? Danzo said to the masked man. The masked man just watched all this calmly and ignored it. Qianye was Konoha's trouble, not his. He didn't need to care at all. He called Orochimaru and made so many preparations in order to make the Uchiha clan extermination night plan go smoothly. Now, the plan has been implemented almost. He has already got the things. Danzo can't threaten him at all, and he doesn't have to listen to Danzo. Dragon Boat Festival reading discount. Top up 100 and get 500 VIP points. Top up now. Event time, June 22nd to June 24th. Chapter 33. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Impure World Reincarnation. The corpses of the first and second Hokage. Seeing that the masked man did not answer and obviously had no intention of attacking, Danzo's face became even gloomier. He turned his head and looked at Itachi, saying, Itachi, take action and kill him. Don't forget the promise we made to each other. Itachi frowned slightly, looked at Danzo, and finally chose to obey. Just as he was about to go forward, Orochimaru suddenly said beside him, give me the boy's body, I can do it. Danzo frowned. Orochimaru had lived in Konoha for so long. He and Orochimaru had a lot of intersections. How could he not know what Orochimaru was thinking and what he wanted to do? However, he did not refuse, but nodded and uttered two words, yes. The ability displayed by Qianye was beyond his imagination. Without exposing his own strength, it would be difficult to retain Uchiha Qianye by relying solely on the ninjas of the root organization. He could only seek help from outside forces. The masked man clearly would not take action. Uchiha Itachi had fought a big battle with Uchiha Qianye before and was injured. He was afraid that he would be powerless. The only one he could rely on was Orochimaru, this former one of the three ninjas of Konoha. Since he said such a thing, he must have a certain degree of confidence. However, whether he can do it or not, he will have to wait until he takes action to know. With the strength displayed by Uchiha Qianye, even if he wants to take him down, it should be difficult. It is even possible that both sides will suffer losses. At that time, what will happen in the end depends on what he wants to do. Good. Remember what you said. Orochimaru said with his usual smile. Just like Danzo knew him very well, he knew Danzo well. Even if he couldn't guess all of what Danzo was thinking and what he would do, he could guess most of it. However, he still chose to do it, because he had absolute confidence in his own ninjutsu. At that time, no matter what Danzo thought in his heart, he could only watch them leave obediently and dare not interfere. To put it bluntly, all he wanted was Danzo's words. Orochimaru took a few steps forward, began to make hand seals, and performed ninjutsu, spiritual summoning technique, impure world reincarnation. Boom! On the ground, 2 coffins emerged little by little and stood in front of several people. Some complex symbols were carved on the coffins. Bang! The coffin lid opened, revealing the figure inside, the one lying in the coffin on the left, long black hair, black tight combat uniform, with red laminated armor. There is a very obvious mark on the laminated armor on the left shoulder, that is the mark of the Senju clan. The one lying in the coffin on the right, silver hair and red eyes, with 3 red marks on the cheeks, and an iron forehead guard on the head. Wearing a black tight combat uniform, with blue laminated armor on the outside. And a white down collar on the shoulders connected to the back. This is, the first Hokage and the second Hokage. Soon, everyone present saw the identities of the 2 people in the coffin and said in shock, the 2 noble and great Hokage in their hearts were summoned in this way, became a killing tool for others. Even the ninjas of the root organization, who were always dark and treacherous, could not help but change a little bit in their hearts. Impure world reincarnation, a forbidden spiritual technique that brings the dead back to life. How could you fool the dead like this? And you are our Hokage. Damn it. They are using our Hokage as a tool. For a moment, everyone was somewhat indignant. Of course, the ninjas of the root organization would know Orochimaru, yes, because of Danzo's orders and the ideological education they have always received. Even if there is something in their hearts, they can temporarily endure it and ignore it. But now, their own Hokage was toyed with like this, which made them a little unbearable. Orochimaru noticed this and just smiled, looking nonchalant. In fact, the reactions of these people made him feel more interesting. Danzo looked at Orochimaru with a little more fear in his eyes. Originally, even though he knew that Orochimaru was not an ordinary person, he didn't take it too seriously. But now, Orochimaru actually summoned the first and second generations directly. He knew very well how strong these 2 were, especially the first generation, who was in existence known as the God of Ninja. If Orochimaru really controls such power, if he really controls such power, he can walk sideways wherever he goes, so why should he negotiate with him? Thinking of this, Danzo let out a long breath, and all the worries in his heart gradually dissipated. He already had the answer in his heart. He signaled the ninjas of the root organization not to meddle. Now, the top priority is to capture Uchiha Qianye as soon as possible. As for the others, he doesn't care what means Orochimaru used as long as he can capture Qianye. Uchiha Itachi, who was standing aside, quickly figured it out after the initial surprise, and just watched indifferently. He just wanted to see how much the first and second generations reborn from the impure world reincarnation could reach the level of their peak period back then. Sir, the first Hokage, the second Hokage, I'm sorry. Orochimaru had a playful smile on his face. He opened his mouth and took out 2 talismans filled with spells and placed them in the bodies of the first and second Hokage. The feeling of controlling the high and mighty figures gave him an extraordinary pleasure. Almost at the same time, the bodies of the first Hokage, Hashirama Senju, and the second Hokage began to change. They were slowly filled with life and looked less and less like corpses. Finally, the fingers moved. The head that had been hanging down slowly raised up. Now, except for the empty and dark eyes, there is almost no obvious difference between them and ordinary people. The people around were amazed. Done. Orochimaru said with a smile, but his smile was inevitably a bit cold. He was very satisfied with the results of this impure world reincarnation. He formed seals with both hands again. The first and second generation Hokage, who were originally standing in place, suddenly moved. They ran towards Qianye with big strides. Almost everyone looked over. They all wanted to see how powerful this impure world reincarnation technique was, and how long Uchiha Qianye could last under the hands of the first and second generation Hokage. And Qianye soon noticed the abnormality here. The moment he saw the first and second generation Hokage, he immediately reacted and realized what was going on. Impure world reincarnation. These are the first and second generation Hokage reborn from the impure world reincarnation. 3-day summer promotion. Recharge 100 to get 500 VIP points. Recharge now. Activity Time, August 13th to August 15th. Chapter 34. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Play it directly as a battle simulator. The root ninjas who had surrounded Qianye retreated and stood far away. The battle just now has proved that even if they fought together, they would not be Qianye's opponents, and now, the first and second generation Hokage who were reborn from the impure world reincarnation are about to arrive. In such a battle between Kage-level strongmen, they can't help at all. They will only become a drag. I'm afraid that the aftermath of such a battle alone is not something they can bear. Retreating immediately is the most reasonable and the best way, and Qianye did not stop these ninjas from leaving. He stood in place, and his eyes were looking in the direction of the first and second generation Hokage, Uchiha Itachi, Orochimaru, and even so many root ninjas could not bring him too much of a challenge. He needs truly powerful ninjas like the first and second generations as opponents. Continue to sharpen yourself and become stronger. In the silent night, under the sky of fire, as his mood changed, the red light of Qianye's eyes and Mangekyo Sharingan became more brilliant. Simulation failed. A line of transparent text appeared in the void. It represented the failure of Qianye's first simulation on the third day, under the siege of the first and second generation Hokage. In the end, Qianye was inevitably defeated. After all, these two Hokage are well known and powerful even in the entire Konoha and even the entire ninja world, especially the first generation Hokage, Senju Hashirama, who was completely regarded as the god of ninja. He was even more powerful than people could imagine, especially in the use of wood release. The first generation Hokage Senju Hashirama used wood release against wood release. In one confrontation after another, Senju Hashirama used his rich experience in fighting the enemy. He gave Qianye a lot of inspiration. Even people sighed from time to time that wood release could be used like this. There is also the second generation Hokage Senju Tobirama. His strength may not be as strong as the first generation Hokage, but it should never be underestimated. There are many ninjutsu, which are dazzling and eye-opening, especially the use of Flying Thunder God. It has reached an extremely high level. It is not an exaggeration to describe it as elusive. The combination of these two, at the level of Kage, is probably difficult for anyone to deal with. Qianye exhaled a long breath, letting his mind gradually become stable in order to deal with the next simulation. At the same time, he kept summarizing the changes that occurred in this simulation. Among them, the most different point is the arrival of Orochimaru. At first, it was a sneak attack. Fortunately, Qianye had the Mangekyo Sharingan pupil technique as Anaji, so he survived. Then came the first generation of Hokage and the second generation of Hokage summoned by the impure world reincarnation. Although, this is obviously not the first and second generation of Hokage with the most peak strength. Especially the first generation, it is possible that it does not even have half of its strength. As a time traveler, Qianye certainly knows this. The current impure world reincarnation is not perfect enough. It is impossible to exert the abilities of the reincarnated person before his death. It was not until more than 10 years later, when the Fourth Ninja World War began, that Kabuto Yakushi used White Zetsu as a sacrifice and perfected the ninjutsu of impure world reincarnation. This greatly enhanced the ability of the reincarnated, and was able to restore most of his strength in his lifetime. But even so, the first and second generations still showed extremely powerful abilities. Their combination is probably something that few ninjas at the level of Kage can deal with. Qianye has the Otsutsuki physique, the Mangekyo Sharingan, and the wood release. With his current strength, he is enough to defeat opponents like Orochimaru, and even when facing the combination of Orochimaru and Itachi, he will not be under too much pressure, but he is still a little insufficient in the combination of the first and second generations. After a fight, he was still defeated. Qianye squinted his eyes. He realized that as he became stronger little by little, the situation and opponents he faced were also changing little by little. At the beginning, his opponent was just a ninja from the root organization. Later, it became Uchiha Itachi. Now he has to face Uchiha Itachi, Orochimaru, Danzo, masked men, and nearly 100-inch root ninjas alone. In the end, even the first and second generation Hokage appeared. If the simulation continues like this, who knows who will be involved in the end. But Qianye didn't have any worries or fears in his heart, but was more excited and expectant. Not long after, Qianye adjusted his mood and started the next simulation immediately. After all, at this time, as his ability becomes stronger and stronger. The survival time is getting longer and longer. In the meantime, Qianye keeps fighting with stronger and stronger opponents. He is also constantly honing his strength, make himself stronger, but everything has its pros and cons. It is true that the strength has become stronger in repeated experience, but it also makes him keep extending the time of each simulation. It directly leads to a reduction in the number of Qianye simulations, and the reduction in the number of simulations means that the probability of refreshing the ability and obtaining the golden ability is reduced. For Qianye now, it is obviously very important to hone himself and enhance his strength in life and death duels, but the opportunity to obtain golden abilities and solidified abilities is equally, or even more, important. After all, there are many ways to enhance one's own strength. Life and death fights are not only available in simulations, however, the opportunity to enhance oneself through solidified abilities is very limited. In theory, 5 days of simulation can get 5 golden abilities, but this is only theoretically, and there is no such guarantee in reality. No one can guarantee that a golden ability can be obtained every day of simulation, so the safest way is to rely on brushing and stacking times. This method seems unwise, but this is also a helpless way. In order to obtain golden abilities, this is the only way. Therefore, in the next few simulations, Qianye changed the cautious strategy when fighting with others in the previous simulations. Instead, he had to adopt more bold and unexpected moves and plans. Among them, although most of them did not have good results, after all, when facing these real shadow-level strongmen, steady, step by step, is the best way. Excessive eagerness for quick success will only expose one's own flaws too early, but it wasn't completely without any effect. First of all, it was obvious, the number of times the ability was refreshed increased significantly. Secondly, there were some good points in those bold and unexpected attempts, and they were not necessarily completely undesirable. In this way, time passed little by little. Qianye simulated again and again. Many strange ideas were confirmed. However, the golden ability that he had been waiting for a long time was never seen. 3 days summer promotion, top up 100 and get 500 VIP points. Top up now. Activity time, August 13th to August 15th. Chapter 35. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 80 Gods Air Attack. Yuhi Kurenai and Yuzuki Yugao came to visit on their own initiative. The timer on the wall was ticking, which was a bit harsh. In more than an hour, the Uchiha clan Extermination night simulation system will once again enter a 2-day cooling period, and the opportunity to solidify the ability will be reset. But in this simulation, some purple abilities were seen, but there was no trace of the gold ability. This made Qianye somewhat disappointed. Could it be that he really had to use a purple ability to make up for it in the end? But if he didn't choose it, wouldn't he just waste an opportunity to solidify the ability? The power of the purple ability is certainly not as strong as the gold ability, but it can also be regarded as a strong force. It can be regarded as a significant enhancement. However, this is not what Qianye wants. Qianye exhaled a long breath, and gradually calmed down his heart, which seemed a little impatient because of the approaching time. There was not much time left for him. He had to speed up and increase the number of rotations. After all, the opportunity to improve oneself through life and death battles is not only available in simulations. It can also be encountered in real life. It's just that the degree of danger is somewhat high. However, the chances of obtaining golden abilities and solidifying them are very limited. There are a maximum of 5 times, and once you miss it, it will be gone. Then, Qianye once again simulated today, in order to speed up the number of simulations and thus increase the chances of refreshing abilities. Qianye tried every possible means. In just 1 hour, it was refreshed more than 20 times. Among them, there are also some abilities that seem quite powerful, for example, Corpse Vein, Earth Grudge, etc. But the golden abilities are still nowhere to be seen. Qianye continued to simulate. Finally, when the simulation was about to end, he saw a row of golden abilities. I finally waited for you. Fortunately, I didn't give up. I didn't even see it clearly. Qianye quickly selected the ability to solidify it. At this time, there were only a few minutes left before the Uchiha clan Extermination night simulation system entered the cooling state. There was no need to simulate anymore. Qianye then looked carefully at the golden abilities that he had obtained by refreshing desperately again and again. 80 Gods Airstrike. golden ability, a type of bloodline net that maximizes chakra and transforms it into countless powerful punches, thus bringing an extremely powerful fist wind. Shake the sky with the way of the gods, an attack and defense, a ruthless fist. Qianye's eyes flashed with obvious joy, 80 gods airstrike. Kagaya Otsutsuki's bloodline net. It is known as the strongest physical technique in Naruto. It is somewhat similar to Might Guy's Day Tiger and Niji's Kaden, but it is more than a little bit stronger. It can be said that it is not in the same order of magnitude. In the original Naruto world, Kagaya Otsutsuki even shattered Sasuke's Susanoo with the 80 gods airstrike. Such a powerful attack power is even stronger than Yikai with all 8 gates open, just like the last sentence in the system introduction. Shake the sky with the way of the gods, an attack and defense, a ruthless fist. However, how powerful can the ability or ninjutsu be? The decision is not the ability or ninjutsu itself, it depends on the person. It's like an ordinary fire escape technique, fire escape great fireball technique. This ninjutsu, if performed by an ordinary genin, Qianye, or Uchiha Madara, the effect is very different. There is no comparison at all. Therefore, for Qianye now, even if he obtains the 80 gods airstrike, it does not mean that he has the ability to kill everything in seconds like Kagaya Otsutsuki. The novel was taken from the Rawla's website. Close where you're reading it and support us on our website for more free novels. This is obviously impossible, no matter what, it is gradual, and there is no such thing as ascending to heaven in one step or achieving it in one fell swoop. Qianye did not have too many expectations in this regard. As the ability solidified, Qianye felt a clear sense of discomfort and some pain, however. As it was completely solidified, the original discomfort slowly receded and turned into a powerful energy. Flowing in the body, Qianye opened his eyes and exhaled. Finally, he finished the task before the system entered the cooling stage. Now he can clearly feel the huge improvement in his own strength after solidifying the 80 gods airstrike. He is sure that if he faces the siege of the root organization ninja again, it will definitely not be as troublesome as before, an 80 gods airstrike. All the ninjas who approached him had to kneel down. Uchiha Itachi, Orochimaru, and Danzo had to temporarily avoid the sharp edge when facing such a powerful attack. As for the first and second generations of the impure world reincarnation, they were not at their peak strength at all. With the 80 gods air attacks, Qianye, who had greatly increased his strength, was confident that he could defeat them. Qianye's eyes suddenly looked outside the door. Through the sharp insight of the Mangekyo Sharingan, he felt that someone was coming. 2 people. They did not deliberately hide their whereabouts. They were not masked men or Danzo's people, and they did not seem to have any hostility towards him. However, Qianye lived in a remote place. He himself rarely contacted others and had no friends, who would come to see him. Knock, knock. Sure enough, not long after, there was a knock on the door. After a slight pause, someone said, "Qianye-kun, are you there?" It was a crisp and pleasant girl's voice. "Yuhi Kurinai? What is she doing here?" Qianye recognized the owner of the voice, and with a teleportation technique, he came to the door and opened it. Outside the door, 2 female ninjas stood there. The one on the left had curly hair, big round eyes, and a hint of charm in her purity. The one on the right had long purple hair and a knife on her back, looking cool and a bit aloof. They were Yuhi Yugao and Yuzuki Yugao, who had gone out with Qianye to complete the mission. Thousand Nights. It seemed that they were caught off guard by Qianye's sudden appearance. A look of panic appeared on the faces of Yuhi Hong and Mao Yu Shiyen. After seeing Qianye, they couldn't help but half lower their heads, and the words they had prepared disappeared all at once, turning into a blank. It was only a few days since the last time they completed the task, but for some reason, when they saw Qianye this time, they still had a distinctly different feeling. This different feeling is not a change in appearance, it's the state and temperament of the whole person. Compared with before, it seems to be deeper and more majestic. Occasionally, a gleam of light flashed in his eyes, which was even more frightening, and his heart trembled. It's really hard to imagine. They are both ninjas, and their ages are not much different, but they are not at the same level at all, and that almost impeccable handsome face. Just looking at it makes people intoxicated and unable to extricate themselves. 3-day summer discount event. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP points. Recharge now. Activity time, August 13th to August 15th. Chapter 36. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Young Hinata. A soft and cute girl. What's the matter? Qianye waited for a while, but didn't wait for Shiri Hong and Mao Yu Shiyan to speak, so he took the initiative to speak. Shiri Hong and Mao Yu Shiyan, whose minds were originally blank, were interrupted and reacted. They came here with serious business. Shiri Hong said, "It's like this, we just received a mission, but another member of our team is still injured. So, we would like to ask Qianye-jun to join us." At the Konoha Guard Department, the head of the Fugaku clan has already agreed. Finally, Yuzuki Yugao also added, "Okay." Since the security department has already made arrangements, Qianye certainly has no reason to refuse and agreed very readily. Afterwards, Mao Yu Shiyan and Shihai Kurenai briefly introduced the mission to Qianye and what it was specifically about. The three of them walked and talked as they headed to the agreed place. This is just a very ordinary sea-level mission, and you don't even have to leave the village to complete it. The only bad thing is that it is troublesome and requires manpower. Otherwise, Qianye would not be specially invited. Therefore, in addition to the team of Qianye, Shihai Kurenai, and Mao Yu Shiyan, there is another team to do it together. They are Hei-8, Sarutobi Asuma and Might Guy. Uchiha. The clan lived on the edge of Konoha village. After walking out of the Uchiha clan settlement and walking for a distance, they finally arrived at Konoha village. As soon as he entered the village, Qianye felt something was unusual. He watched them whispering from a distance, but when he got closer, they suddenly became quiet, and their eyes were full of vigilance. Without much guessing, Qianye also knew what the source was. Among the three of them, Yuzuki Yugao and Yuhi Kurenai are both from Konoha village. The villagers naturally wouldn't treat them like this. Obviously, it was all because of him, or the Uchiha clan. It turned out that the conflict between Konoha and the Uchiha clan had reached this point. Even ordinary people, there was also hostility between them. Qianye's expression was calm, and there was no change from beginning to end. He was not a glass heart. He didn't care what these indifferent people said or did, and he was too lazy to pay attention. But Mao Yu Shiyan and Yuhi Hong looked a little unnatural. They asked Qianye to help, but they didn't expect such a thing to happen on the road. The conflict between Uchiha and Konoha was known to even ordinary villagers, let alone them, but in their hearts, they have always hated fighting and loved peace. From the bottom of their hearts, they hoped that the Uchiha clan and Konoha could live in harmony. However, with their strength as mere chunin, their status was not high. Obviously there is no way to change anything. The first moment they noticed the abnormality, Zihi Hong and Mao Yu Shiyan both subconsciously glanced in the direction of Qianye. They were afraid that this would anger Qianye. When they saw that Qianye's handsome face did not seem to be angry, but rather a nonchalant expression, their hearts eased a little. Several people quickened their pace and passed this road. Facing the strange eyes of the people around them, no one wanted to stay here for long. At this moment, a voice with some surprise suddenly came from not far away. The voice was crisp and tender, with a bit of innocence, very pleasant to the ear. It just seemed a little weak and shy. "That, Brother Qianye." The three turned around and saw a little girl greeting them. The girl's voice was not loud, it was just that no one was talking nearby and it was quite quiet, so people could hear it clearly. The girl was about 6 or 7 years old. She had short dark blue hair and a face as delicate as a porcelain doll, very cute. One thing worth noting is that the girl's eyes were white. This also explained the girl's origin. One of the most prominent families in Konoha village, the Hyuga clan, and this little girl was the eldest daughter of the Hyuga clan leader, Hyuga Hinata. Seeing Hinata, Yuzuki Yugao and Yuhi Kurenai greeted her warmly. They all liked this kind, gentle, and somewhat shy little girl. Qianye's extremely handsome face also showed a rare warmth. In his previous life, he had a very good impression of Hinata. After traveling through time and several contacts, this good impression not only did not decrease, but even deepened a lot. However, this good impression is definitely not a love between men and women. After all, Hinata is only 6 or 7 years old now, too young. Of course, what we are talking about here is age. Little Hinata looked at Yuhi Kurenai, Yuzuki Yugao, and Qianye with a pair of white eyes like gemstones, and quickly lowered her head. There was a little blush on her fair, translucent, and extremely delicate face. "I don't know why she suddenly became shy, Miss. Why are you here? The clan leader is waiting for you to welcome the Unying village together." that a middle-aged man who looked like a butler walked over quickly, and suddenly saw Qianye standing beside him. His eyes suddenly changed, and there was a hint of vigilance and panic in his eyes. He directly pulled Hinata up and walked away, and kept saying something in Hinata's ear. Little Hinata looked puzzled, struggling and looking back, but unfortunately, she was too weak and couldn't break free. She was still taken away. Such a change happened suddenly. Mao Yuxian and Shiri Hong were a little confused, and didn't understand why it happened suddenly. Why did the butler take Hinata away in a hurry? Qianye had already seen through everything. Of course, this happened because of his identity, the conflict between the Uchiha clan and Konoha village. Little Hinata is still young, and maybe she doesn't understand it yet, but how could the person who can become a butler and take care of little Hinata be an ordinary person? The strength may not be high, but the treatment and eyesight are definitely not bad. So, Hinata was taken away as soon as possible. After all, Hinata's identity is too extraordinary. She is the eldest daughter of the Hyuga clan leader and is regarded as the future successor of the Hyuga clan. However, now she is in close contact with the Uchiha clan in such a public occasion. If this matter gets out, it will be very disadvantageous to the Hyuga clan. The third Hokage may not think much about it, but Danzo is different. This kind of thing must not happen. Therefore, the scene just now happened. What the butler did is the best choice for the Hyuga clan. At this critical juncture, with Hinata's identity, she really shouldn't have contact with him, or anyone from the Uchiha clan. Let's go. Qianye said lightly, turned around and left. Oh. Ziyi Hong and Mao Yuxian also reacted. They stopped thinking about what just happened. The three of them walked to the agreed place together. 3-day summer promotion, top up 100 and get 500 VIP points. Top up now. Activity time, August 13th to August 15th. Chapter 37. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hey 8 and Asuma, for some reason, I feel like there's something green on my head. When Qianye, Yuhi Kurenai, and Yuzuki Yugao arrived at the agreed location, Asuma, Hey 8, and Asuma were already there. Seeing Qianye and the other two approaching, Might Guy immediately ran over. Qianye, I heard that you defeated Kuroki Raiga, one of the 7 ninja swordsmen. That's amazing. As he spoke, an arm came over. Qianye frowned slightly and took a step back, just avoiding it. Of course, he knew that Might Guy had no ill intentions. It's just, although they graduated from the same class, they are not close at all. It's really unbearable to be so close to each other. Might Guy's outstretched hand stopped in mid-air for a moment, and then laughed. Ha. Qianye, how about we have a physical contest? He gave a thumbs up and showed his unusually bright white teeth. Qianye was immediately upset. Beside him, Yuzuki Yugao, Yuhi Kurenai, Sarutobi Asuma, and Hey 8 also smiled unconsciously. Twitching, Might Guy is still as thick-skinned as ever. Stop. We still have tasks to complete. How can we let Qianye compete with you? Su Rihong said. Mao Yuxian also said. Qianye is the one we invited to help. This. Might Guy was stunned, still a little reluctant, but in the end he smiled and said, okay, let's compete again after we complete the task. Qianye, you must not refuse. Well, okay. Qianye did not refuse. He was not familiar with Might Guy, but he respected him very much. He was a boy with ordinary qualifications. He did not have an innate inherited bloodline, nor did he have unparalleled talent. Such people are everywhere in Konoha village. Some chose other ways and gave up the road of ninja. Some relied on age to barely become chunin and lived a hasty life, but Might Guy was different. He was not the most favored by God, and he did not have the power of ancient and glorious bloodline. But he was the most hardworking. No matter what seemingly impossible things he encountered, he would try his best to do it. Trying hard, but not succeeding, did not change his beliefs at all. If you try hard and still don't succeed, then keep trying. Try hard again. As long as you work hard, you will be rewarded. As the saying goes, anything that can't beat him will make him stronger. Under such a creed in life, Might Guy grew up step by step, from an ordinary boy in the ninja village, to a leader among his generation now, even more than 10 years later, in the ninja world war that shocked the world. Might Guy, this boy who was once so ordinary that he couldn't be more ordinary, will burst out with a power that will amaze the legendary Uchiha Madara. For such a person, how can people not respect him? Moreover, since Qianye has the physique of the Otsutsuki and his strength has greatly increased. He has never fought with a real master of physical skills, now is a good opportunity. Well, then, let's have a real fight. Might Guy once again made his signature move. He raised his thumb and showed his unusually bright white teeth. At this time, Asuma Sarutobi and Hayate also came over. The 6 people gathered together and began to assign tasks. With Qianye's help this time, our mission should be completed quickly. Zihe Hong smiled and thanked Qianye. Mao Yuxian beside him also smiled and nodded. Their mission this time was not complicated, it was mainly troublesome. As Qianye's status as a senior ninja, he would basically not be assigned such a mission, but this time, because their team was short of people, they were forcibly pulled over again. Zihe Hong and Mao Yuxian were very grateful in their hearts. Oh, what's so great about that? Jifeng snorted, somewhat sourly. Mao Yuxian Su was cold and seldom smiled, but today she was so generous with her smile. That smile was so beautiful, like dewdrops on the first melting of ice and snow, like flowers blooming in spring. It was a pity that this smile was not for him. We have more than one Jonin here. Asuma and Kai were also promoted to Jonin this year. Hayate said. Hearing Hayate's words, Kai once again raised his thumb, showing his unusually white and shining teeth, and made his signature move. Sarutobi Asuma subconsciously straightened his chest, raised his head a little, and said in a deep voice, I'm here, no accidents. However, when he looked at Yuhi Kurenai, he found that Yuhi Kurenai didn't even look at him, and her eyes were still on Qianye. This ignited the anger in Asuma's heart. But, after all, Yuhi Kurenai is watching by his side, he can't be too ungraceful. In addition, Qianye defeated Kuroki Raiga, one of the 7 ninja swordsmen, although he always had some doubts in his heart about the value of this. But, defeat is defeat, this cannot be false. Recently, the name Uchiha Qianye is in the limelight. Asuma there was no certainty that she could defeat Qianye, therefore, she couldn't take action. If she lost, it would be such a disgrace. She had to keep all this in mind. She secretly made up her mind to perform well in the next mission and prove in front of Yuhi Kurenai that she was no worse than Uchiha Qianye. Yuhi Kurenai sighed secretly in her heart. After so long, she would certainly understand Asuma's feelings for her. She just pretended not to understand. Originally, in her heart, although Asuma was plain-looking, loved to smoke, and had a lot of minor problems, but to her there is really nothing to say. In addition, in terms of family background, Asuma is the son of the 3rd Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen. In terms of personal strength, he can be ranked among the Jonin at a young age. Among the younger generation, he is not the best, but he is also one of the best. Seeing such a person pursuing her so hard, Yuhi Kurenai's heart would inevitably be moved. It's just, since the last mission with Qianye, I don't know why, Qianye's calm face without a trace of ripples when facing Kuroki Raiga often appeared in her mind, and that plain but domineering sentence, don't be afraid, I'm here. Whenever she thought of it, her heart would warm up. At the same time, it also made her more distant and repulsive to Asuma's love. Asuma is not bad, it's just that he is not the one she wants. She only hopes that Asuma can come back as soon as possible and stop wasting time and energy on her. The same goes for Mao Yuxian. If there is no Qianye, perhaps Ji Feng may not be impossible, but now everything is different. 3-day summer promotion, recharge 100 and get 500 VIP points. Recharge now. Activity time, August 13th to August 15th. Chapter 38. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Maybe this is what it means to be a dog licker. Qianye, Yuhi Kurenai, Yuzuki Yugao, Asuma, Might Guy, and Hayate gathered together and soon assigned the tasks and started to implement them. Among them, for some reason, Asuma and Hayate seemed particularly active and capable. They even took away a lot of tasks from others. Might Guy exclaimed upon seeing this, this is youth, and youth should fight and struggle at all costs. He then joined Asuma and Hayate impatiently. Yuhi Kurenai and Yuzuki Yugao were both stunned. What happened today? Did he take the wrong medicine? Might Guy is easier to deal with. After all, such a person is difficult to judge by common sense. Those who understand will understand. Why are Asuma and Hayate like this too? They are still scrambling to do such a hard job. Qianye is happy to be idle, doing things slowly, without deliberately speeding up or slacking off. Someone helps him do the task, and he doesn't have to pay any price. Such free labor, please bring a few more. Night, the bright moon cast a pool of silvery white light, everything it illuminated was coated with a layer of gauze, everything on the ground changed color, like a pool of spring water. Little Hinata lay on a rocking chair in the yard, looking at the night sky that was gradually becoming azure and deep, but she was still thinking about what happened during the day. On the way home today, the housekeeper said a lot to her. After returning home, her father also said a lot to her. She understood a little, but not completely. They were all people from Konoha village, so why were they so incompatible? And, could she really never see her brother Qianye again and talk to her brother Qianye? In front of little Hinata's big and bright white eyes, the night sky gradually became hazy and turned into another picture. It was a snowy afternoon. A little girl about 3 or 4 years old was walking alone on a secluded path. The little girl's face was a little red from the cold, and her hands and feet were extremely cold. At this time, if you look closely, you will find that the little girl in the picture is actually somewhat similar to Hinata. It was what happened when little Hinata was younger. The cold wind blew, blowing the snowflakes on the ground and trees into the air. It was even colder. Little Hinata tightened her clothes and walked forward quickly. However, she didn't go far. In front of her, a few children who were slightly older than her blocked her way. Stop and hand over the money you have on you, otherwise you won't be able to pass. I don't have any money. Hinata was a little scared and subconsciously took 2 steps back, saying weakly, no money? I want to see if you have it. The leading child said, and then he waved his hand and all the children around him came forward. No, I really didn't. Little Hinata was so scared that she was shaking all over, with tears in the corners of her eyes, and she stepped back step by step. When she wasn't paying attention, she was knocked down by a stone buried in the snow behind her and fell to the ground. Several naughty children took the opportunity to surround Hinata and were about to attack her. Hinata curled up and buried her head in her knees, ready to endure the beating. However, the imagined pain did not come. When she was confused, a gentle voice suddenly came to her ears. It's okay, get up. Hinata slowly raised her head. The children who had surrounded her had disappeared. Instead, there was an extremely handsome boy who was reaching out to her to pull her up. At that time, she had only one thought in her mind. Oh my God, how could there be such a good-looking person? That handsome guy was undoubtedly Qianye. Qianye helped little Hinata up, brushed off the snow on his body, and then took little Hinata home. The last scene in Hinata's eyes was a boy with a little girl walking in a world of pink and white, gradually going farther and farther. Only 2 sets of shallow footprints were left. That was the trace they left together. Brother Qianye, Hinata murmured, and the corners of her mouth unconsciously raised a shallow arc. At this moment, a figure suddenly flashed before her eyes, and her eyes went black, and the whole person lost consciousness and fainted. On the other side, after working hard for several hours, Qianye and his companions finally completed the mission. They were exhausted, especially Asuma and Hay-8, who performed particularly well in the mission. They were almost exhausted and could hardly walk. Might Guy's situation was slightly better, but it was definitely not much better. Even the originally agreed competition was no longer mentioned. There was no way, there was really no strength. Yuhi Kurenai and Yuzuki Yugao were also a little tired, although they did the least in the process. But after all, they were girls, and their physical fitness was slightly worse. In addition, these two were not ninjas who were good at physical skills. Such a situation was not uncommon. Qianye was the only one who looked calm. For him, with the physique of Otsutsuki, all this was nothing. A group of 6 people walked on the way home. As they walked, Qianye suddenly noticed something keenly. Looking sideways, he saw a figure holding something and leaping at high speed under the moonlight. It didn't look like a ninja from Konoha village. However, Qianye did not stop him. Nor did he say much. For him, because of the conflict between Konoha and the Uchiha clan, he and Konoha are enemies, not friends. And the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Why should he meddle in other people's business? However, after walking a few steps, Qianye suddenly stopped, because he was very keenly aware of a very familiar breath. Hinata. The figure was holding Hinata. If it was something else, or someone else, Qianye might not care, but Hinata was different. He didn't want to, and he couldn't ignore it. Seeing Qianye suddenly stopped, Yuhi Kurenai asked, "What happened?" Everyone else also looked over. Qianye stared into the distance and said lightly, "Someone invaded, in this direction." Invasion? Hearing these 2 words, the faces of several people changed slightly. This is a big deal and must be reported immediately. Might Guy ran directly to Qianye's side, imitating Qianye's appearance and looking into the distance, but, except for the darkness and the moonlight of Sister Jiao, he could not see anything. Hehe, what for an invasion, it's impossible. Asuma sneered. In fact, when Qianye just said it, he was really shocked, but soon, he reacted, this is unlikely. As the son of the third-generation Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, Sarutobi Asuma's knowledge is far beyond that of ordinary ninjas, that's why he was able to deduce it so quickly. 3 days summer promotion, recharge 100 and get 500 VIP points. Recharge now, activity time, August 13th to August 15th. Chapter 39. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hinata is kidnapped. There is trouble in the hidden cloud village. Our Konoha village doesn't seem to be guarded by many people, but that's just on the surface. In fact, all the key entrances and exits to the village are closely guarded by the Umbu people, so it is not possible for just anyone to enter. You should all know who the Umbu are. Who could come in under their guard? What's more, you may not know it, hehe. Sarutobi Asuma laughed, with a mysterious and proud look on his face. In fact, there has always been an invisible power shield around our Konoha village. This layer of power is invisible and transparent, we can't even see it clearly. Under normal circumstances, as long as people from Konoha village enter and exit, there will be no problem. However, as long as a stranger passes by, an alarm will be sounded immediately, and the Hokage and the Umbu ninjas will know about it at the first time and counterattack. How could a stranger get in with such tight security? After saying that, he laughed again, and there was a hint of sarcasm in his eyes when he looked at Qianye. Boy, you finally fell into my hands. Ji Feng laughed and said, Asuma really deserves to be the son of the Hokage, he knows a lot. Otherwise, we would have been deceived. Might Guy, Yuzuki Yugao, and Yuhi Kurenai were a little skeptical. Qianye did not explain too much. At this critical moment, if he stayed to explain slowly, I'm afraid Hinata would have been taken out of Konoha long ago. He disappeared from the spot with a flash of body technique. Wait for me. Might Guy chased after him without much hesitation. For some reason, he trusted Qianye more than Asuma. Yuzuki Yugao and Yuhi Kurenai looked at each other. We will go too. It would be great if nothing happens. If anything happens, we can take care of it. After saying that, he chased after them. Asuma, Sarutobi and Hayate had to follow them as well. The 6 of them moved quickly under the moonlight, one in front and one behind. The one in the front was Qianye, a little later was Might Guy, behind them were Kurenai Yuhi, Yuzuki Yugao, Asuma and Hayate. At the beginning, the gap between them was not too big, but later, only Might Guy could barely keep up, but it was just barely. Even if Might Guy tried his best, the gap between the two was still widening rapidly at a very fast speed. Later, even Might Guy was left far behind and could not catch up. Really, it's hard to believe, Might Guy's physical skills are even slightly inferior to Konoha's genius ninja Kakashi Hatake. Now he has been left behind. Especially Asuma and Hayate. Others may not know it very well, but the two of them know clearly how strong Might Guy's ninjutsu is. But now, Uchiha Qianye has reached that level. On the other side, Qianye performed the instant body technique at the fastest speed, and soon caught up with the figure. The man wore a mask and a nightgown. The person in his arms was Hinata. Seeing someone blocking the way, the man did not say a word and directly performed ninjutsu. Thunder escape thunderball. A ball full of electric arcs, emitting strong energy, flew towards Qianye. Electricity is an extremely fast existence in nature, and it is difficult to see its tracks clearly before being hit. Boom. Qianye was hit by the thunderball and exploded on the spot, creating a large deep pit. Oh, you dare to block the way. The man laughed contemptuously and prepared to leave without looking back. After all, the noise just now was not small, and it must have alarmed some people. He must leave as soon as possible. While thinking, he planned to leave instantly. However, he was suddenly stunned. He couldn't move, his whole body couldn't move at all. He looked down subconsciously. He saw that he had been tied to the tree at some point. In front of him, Uchiha Qianye, who had been killed by the thunderball, stood in front of him and scathed, this, how is it possible? The man widened his eyes, shocked. Could it be, that everything from just now was an illusion? I have been under the illusion from the beginning. Qianye looked calm. Easily dealing with such a small character did not make him excited. According to the strength classification of Konoha, this was just an elite jonin. He could easily deal with it without revealing any of his cards. Qianye walked forward and took off the mask on the man's face. What was revealed was a strange face that Qianye had never seen before. However, seeing this face does not mean that you don't know this person. This person wore a forehead protector on his head that was clearly the symbol of the hidden Cloud Village. Are you the messenger from Cloud Shadow Village? Now that you know, why don't you let me go? Do you want to provoke a war in the ninja world? Even though the messenger of the Cloud Shadow Village was captured, he did not give in at all and was still arrogant. Qianye ignored him. But he couldn't help but think of something in his heart. In the original Naruto world, there was indeed such an incident where Hinata was captured, but she was encountered and killed by Hyuga Hayashi, Hinata's father. Afterwards, the Cloud Shadow Village threatened to kill the messenger and must get Hyuga Hayashi's body, otherwise they would go to war, in order to get the Hyuga clan's bloodline limit, the Akuken. Afterwards, Hyuga Hayashi's younger brother Hyuga Hizashi died instead, and the matter was understood. It was obviously the people of the Cloud Hidden Village who came to snatch Hinata and were beaten to death. In the end, they still had to sacrifice the life of the Hyuga family. Nothing else. It is said that the third generation is too weak. This is true both to the outside world and to the inside. Even an envoy from the Cloud Shadow Village dares to speak so arrogantly. It can be seen that peace won by groveling is not peace. Looking at the arrogant appearance of the Cloud Shadow Village envoy, Qianye sneered, the Cloud Shadow Village envoy, the Ninja World War. Others may be a little afraid, but it is of no use to him. In fact, wouldn't it be a better choice to kill the envoy directly and cause some trouble for Konoha? Such an expression directly made the Cloud Shadow Village envoy feel cold in his heart, and the whole person felt like falling into an ice cave. He felt a very pure killing intent. This young ninja will really kill him. You, what do you want to do? You can't kill me, you can't. At this point, the Union village messenger finally showed a bit of fear on his face. However, this did not change Chinye's inner thoughts. Search. A kunai was thrown out of Chinye's hand. Bang. It pierced the Union village messenger's throat. Blood spurted out immediately. The Union village messenger vomited blood. His mouth was full of blood foam, and he opened and closed his mouth, but he could not speak a word clearly. Finally, his head sank, and his life ended. 3-day summer promotion. Recharge 100 and get 500 VIP points. Recharge now. Activity time, August 13th to August 15th. Chapter 40. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Rescue Hinata. Preparations for the night of extermination. Easily killed the Cloud Shadow Village messenger and saved Hinata. Qianye first roughly checked Hinata's body to see if there were any injuries. Fortunately, it was not serious. Qianye, brother Qianye, am I dreaming? Hinata barely opened her tired eyes and murmured, but before she could wake up, she fainted again. Not long after, Asuma, Hei-8, Might Guy, Yuzuki Yugao and Yuhi Kurenai also rushed over. Seeing this bloody scene, several people couldn't help but look a little ugly. Is it Hinata? Is Hinata okay? Yuhi Kurenai and Yuzuki Yugao asked with concern. Well, it's not serious, just fainted temporarily. Qianye replied. After hearing Chinye's words, the people present were relieved and turned their attention to the bloody corpse. Who is he? Might Guy put away his usual carefree look and asked in a serious tone. Qianye pointed at the man's forehead protector and said, he is from the hidden Cloud Village. Yukikage Village? Asuma frowned. Today, I just heard from my father that an envoy from Yukikage Village came to visit the Hyuga clan. Could it be, that it is him? But what did he want to do by kidnapping Hinata? He didn't understand. Hei-8, Yuhi Kurenai, and Yuzuki Yugao beside him were also puzzled. As for Might Guy, he was not known for his high IQ. Several people stared at each other with puzzled eyes. Qianye, what do you think? Yuhi Kurenai looked at Qianye and asked. Yuzuki Yugao, Might Guy, and even Asuma and Hei-8, who had some hostility towards Qianye in their hearts, all looked over. Usually, they might have some disputes over some unimportant things, but when it comes to big things, no one will have any barriers in their hearts, and they must be united against the outside world. Although Konoha's set of ideas is a bit pedantic, it also has its unique features. It can pull everyone's spirit and thoughts together. This has become a force that cannot be underestimated. Qianye did not answer directly but asked back, what is the Hyuga clan most famous for? Bai Yen. Asuma blurted out, and then his expression changed slightly, because he had thought of something. The others also understood it instantly. Taking Hinata away, of course, was for the Byakugan, the secret of the Byakugan. Several people were silent for a moment. They couldn't help but feel extremely heavy in their hearts. This matter is of great importance. We must tell the third generation and let the third generation decide. Asuma made the decision immediately. Killing the messenger of the Cloud Shadow Village is no small matter. Any mistake will cause a war between the Cloud Shadow Village and the Konoha village. This is no longer a responsibility that a few Chunin and Jonin can bear. The Hokage must be told about this matter. To this end, no one present objected, so, Asuma, as the son of the Hokage, went alone to report the news. The rest of the people stayed where they were, guarding the body to prevent any accidents. After Asuma left, Heiate and Might Guy stood guard around carefully to prevent any accidents. Yuhi Kurenai and Yuzuki Yugao came to help take care of Hinata, who fainted. Qianye stood alone on the tree trunk, looking at the darkness in front of him indifferently. He clearly remembered that Hinata was kidnapped by the messenger of the Cloud Hidden Village. It did not happen on the eve of the Uchiha clan extermination. Even if it happened, it should have been Hinata's father Hyuga Hizashi who discovered and stopped it, not him who had just completed the task. It seems that as he traveled to this world, many things are not set in stone. For example, Hinata was kidnapped this time, and Orochimaru appeared on the night of the clan extermination, and the first and second generations of Hokage were resurrected. This reminded Qianye that he can't always look at things with the same ideas as before. He must have his own thinking, be careful and cautious, so that he can be successful in everything. However, what Qianye didn't know was that right in front of him, in the darkness in the distance, a vortex slowly appeared. It sucked in the two people who were hiding there. When they came out again, they had already reached the Hokage rock. There was shock and deep greed in Orochimaru's eyes. We were discovered. Such a terrifying perception from such a distance. Is this the Sharingan? What a terrifying power. Beside him, the masked man was as deep, majestic and calm as usual, but his heart was not as calm as he looked on the surface. When he found out that the people from Kumikage village kidnapped Hinata, he followed quietly from behind. With his Kage-level strength and the bug-level space ninjutsu of Kamui space, he didn't have to worry about being discovered. After seeing Qianye join in, he deliberately distanced himself, just because he didn't want to be discovered by Qianye. But now, he was discovered again. Damn it, is this the perception of the three Magatama Sharingan? I'm a little curious about how far the perception and insight of the Mangekyo Sharingan can go. Orochimaru asked with his usual cold smile on his face. As the most science-obsessed ninja in Konoha village back then, he had done a deep study of the Sharingan. The three Magatama Sharingan corresponds to three abilities: insight, replication, and illusion. The strength of these three abilities is not absolute, it depends on the person himself. The stronger the person, the stronger the ability. But this strength also has a limit. The three Magatama Sharingan's abilities in all aspects are completely inferior to the Mangekyo Sharingan. This is a qualitative difference. The perception of the three Magatama Sharingan has reached such a terrifying level, then wouldn't the Mangekyo Sharingan be? The masked man put one hand behind his back. Did not say a word, maintaining his usual demeanor as a master. It's not that he didn't want to say it, but he couldn't explain it. Even with the insight of his Mangekyo Sharingan, he simply couldn't have such a terrifying perception. How could Qianye, with only three Magatama Sharingan? This is impossible. Or has Uchiha Qianye already opened the Mangekyo Sharingan? If it is true, this is too terrifying. Extraordinary physical skills, coupled with the Mangekyo Sharingan, such strength has already exceeded his expectations. But fortunately, he had found Orochimaru before. That ninjutsu, although not perfect, but it is enough to deal with the current situation. Is your preparation okay? The masked man asked. Don't worry, I guarantee there won't be any mistakes. Orochimaru said with a smile. He had absolute confidence in this ninjutsu. Well, that's good. The masked man nodded, his eyes were fixed on the distance. The plan for the night of genocide was coming, and he didn't want to see any more accidents. Dragon Boat Festival reading discount. Top up 100 and get 500 VIP points. Top up now. Event time, June 22nd to June 24th.